Alrighty, testing. Is this thing on? Welcome to another episode of A Gamer's Guide to Productivity. Today, of course, you got your host, Nico Penguin, and we're thrilled to have the very talented Jason Maynor joining us today. So, guys, make sure to stay tuned because his storytelling journey began with Star Trek fan fiction back in high school, and he's been involved in creating his own cosmic world through the First Contact series. His passion for military theme, love for gaming, and experiences from a long career as a truck driver have literally uniquely shaped his creative process. And with his second book, Epsilon in the Development, he's ready to share his stories with the world. So we're going to be diving into how he found time to create this, how he got inspired to do so, how he was able to do it throughout all this chaotic situation that he's going to tell us in order to get the inspiration that fueled his galactic tale. So, Jason, thank you so much for giving the opportunity for us to learn more about your story.
Absolutely. And I guess I got a little bit of an announcement to make there. If my internet is go for there. You had said that Epsilon was in development. It's actually finished. The book itself is finished. I just need to and the book cover design phase, and she's ready to go out there in the world. But that's the most expensive part right there, is the editing.
Oh, certainly. That is very tough as an author. And for those that may not know your journey on how you got to the creating of book writing, you were a driver at one point as an adult, but you also started this process in the writing as a fan fiction Star Trek series. So how did you even come about deciding to do fan fiction?
I honestly don't have a clue on how it started. I was in high school. I always had my laptop with me, and I could never stop thinking about Star Trek Voyager. It was constantly in my mind all the time. So during phases between classes and stuff, I'd open up my laptop and I would just start writing. I would just start writing, episode after episode, what I thought would be cool about what this shoot off series could be, this
Mm-hmm.
new type of art. And I created my own actual Star Trek show based off of trying to find Voyager.
Mm.
And eventually, as the actual fan fiction developed, I had sat there at one point in time and read it like what 3 or 4 times, and I'm sitting here going, there is a lot of unique elements to this
Mm-hmm.
that you don't in Star Trek. So maybe I should make this my own. Maybe I should create a new universe, something that is unique and it is mine. So I completely scrubbed everything Star Trek from it,
Mm-hmm.
started from scratch, and I mean, at this point in time, I had already started driving, and I started from phase one and rewrote everything.
And now, for those that may not know, as a driver, is it very easy to find time to write, or how did you use your sparing free time to actually write?
So finding time to write is extremely difficult because we've got 14 hours in a day to drive 11 hours, and it's mentally exhausting. It really is. You get up, you do your job, and by the time that clock runs out, all you want to do is sleep, and it's
Right.
rinse. But the benefit to that is during those 14 hours when we're driving, you get a lot of you time. A lot of that time I spent developing that story in my brain, and I just thought about it nonstop. So, I mean, I do contribute a lot of that time to just thinking about the story, playing out scenarios, thinking about, okay, what if this character does this? What if this situation happens like this? And if it wasn't for a lot of that free time driving,
Hmm.
that helped out. That helped out quite a bit. And I was able to do voice notes while I was driving. That way I knew I could, record it down and remember it. Siri was able to record specific things that I wanted to be able to write on my
Hmm.
off time. So that did help out quite a bit.
Now, what enabled you to think that you had the ability to do so? Because in my case, when I thought about authors, I always put them on such a high pedestal, and I was like, I could never do that. Did you
You're
ever
right.
look at Star Trek and be like, that story's not good enough, I could do better? Or it's like
No,
there's another element to it that they're not telling. Like, what was it that
it
made you
wasn't
say I can do that?
it wasn't Star Trek, because you are absolutely right. When I looked at Star Trek and all of the episodes and all of the writers, Chris Burnham and everyone, they were just larger than life to me. Even I saw what George Lucas created. It just seemed larger than life, and I always thought to myself, I could never do it, never. It wasn't until I was driving one day, and one of the elements that I really truly enjoy about truck driving was audiobooks. Oh my God, those it helped the truck driving tremendously,
Right.
and so um, I don't know how to say this properly, but it kind of um, like exercised the mind.
Hmm.
Because when you're driving a truck, your mind really isn't doing anything
Right.
very much besides just focusing on a few things. But
Hmm.
audiobooks, if you're listening to them and actually paying attention to them, it helps your intellect tremendously.
Right.
So I found this. Um, it started with, I can't remember which book it was at first that started it, but it was a narrator by R.C. Bray. Have you heard of R.C. Bray?
RC Bray. We're gonna
He
fuck
is the
that up.
he is the king of audio narration, the absolute king of narration. But I listened to that one book and I thought he was such a phenomenal narrator. I looked into what else that he narrated. And then I came across a series that fit what I enjoyed listening to. It was a military military sci-fi-ish as well, called Expeditionary Force.
Hmm.
And the book was Columbus Day. I read into it and I was instantly hooked. I the second book, instantly hooked. Then I looked into the author, Craig Allenson, and I looked into his story.
Hmm.
He's a regular Joe Schmo nobody working a 9 to 5 job. And he wrote 3 books in succession. And he just put them on KDP just to put them on, just for the hell of it.
Right.
And it took off. It came off wild. And by like the fifth or the seventh book, I can't remember which one he said it, but he started making an income so great, it was like 2 or 3 times larger than his daytime job. He actually was able to retire.
Wow.
Yeah, and his he developed a community so large, so crazily large. His fan base is it's it's just hard to describe. And he was just a regular person
Right.
out of Florida. He lives in Florida, and just a regular guy in his 50s decided to write for fun
Hmm.
and come up on Amazon. So when I looked into his story, and he's an excellent writer. The books that he writes are just amazing. I absolutely love his work. He is a great, phenomenal writer, and I say that in shame because he released a book recently and I haven't read it yet. So I'm kind of shamed at that. But anyways, if he can do it, why can't I?
Mm.
I mean, I'm not saying to get to that level. I'm not saying I'm going to get to Stephen King level.
Right.
I'm not interested in that. If I can just get out and reach a few people, just get a good number of people to read my books, to get a good discussion going, to touch the minds of a few people, to get a good healthy community going, I'll be a happy man. Happy man.
What made you see that it was possible, that it could be a true reality for you?
When I released my first book on Amazon back in 2019, I didn't think I just really didn't think it was going to go anywhere. And then some of the reviews started coming in. Some of the vocal reviews were a bit negative. Some of them were um, grammar police, and oh yeah, and it's actually hilarious because some of them, if you actually read the reviews, you clearly tell they did not read the book at all,
Mm.
and some of them were actually quite um, promising. But it really wasn't the reviews; it was the private emails that I kept getting
Mm.
of the people telling me how absolutely wonderful the book was. And then it was the continuous emails of people asking me when the sequel was coming out.
Mm.
They wanted more. And unfortunately, life kind of kept coming in between that. And it took me 5 years to do the sequel.
Right.
I kind of felt very, very terrible for that.
I mean, that also is a testament to how much you dedicated, one, into the first book, and two, how much you wanted to make sure that the next one lives up to what the first one brought out. But it's actually intriguing that it was the email portion of the feedback that gave you that kind of realization that this is something that you can do as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like your community let you know, hey, we are here. We're supporting you. We want the next one, please.
It wasn't a lot of people. It was only like three or four of them, but it was enough.
It
It
was
was
enough because if you take a look at the Amazon page, it's full of a lot of reviews on there. And I know that must have taken time. And at the beginning, it might not have been as mind opening that this is a reality. But what enabled you to keep thinking about this is something that you can do? Because I take a look at your cover art and I say, that is a sweet image. This has got to be like a super professional author that's been doing it for like 20 to 30 years. This is amazing. I look at the description. I'm like, this is a top tier. There's no way this is only your first written material, your first published book.
I appreciate that. You keep an eye on that pretty soon because I'm actually going to be changing out that entire cover art real soon.
Hmm.
Yep, it's going to get a complete makeover.
Now that's
So,
actually pretty interesting because I really was drawn to that cover. That cover really pulled me in and let me know, like, okay, this is space, this is sci-fi, and then I saw that you also played Eve Online and that this game also semi shaped your story. And I wanted to get your understanding. How could this video game possibly help
how
you?
how did you tell that I played Eve?
I was looking at the description and I saw Eve in the bio. I was like, okay, if you played Eve and then your description shows a lot of understanding of sci-fi, futuristic, I was like, okay, so you definitely got to come on the show because I love gamers. I love productivity. And if
Yep.
you're a productive gamer, you created a story based off of what your mind did not let you rest until it got published to the world and you played video games and it helped you. I need to know, how did you make that connection and how did the game help you, if it did help you or if it just helped you de-stress from the long hours on the road?
So Eve Online played a positive and a negative influence on me. Yes. Eve, it was the only thing on the face of this earth that I've ever gotten addicted to. I
Mm.
spent quite literal thousands upon thousands of real money into it.
Ah.
Because when I wasn't writing on my free time, I was playing Eve. And I was
Mm.
one of that would have 11 accounts running all at the same time. I had
Really?
Yeah, I had a 6 monitor setup. I had my
Yo,
main
really?
my main, my second main, my third main, my fourth main, and then all the other monitors had the rest of them in like four and all that crazy stuff going on. And I would just be having my entire I'd have a fleet all by myself. I was
Wow.
my fleet. I'd have two Roracles going, and then I'd have four or five uh, uh, transport ships shooting back and forth to unload stuff. Oh my! Oh, it cost me a lot of money, but that was the negative. The positive was it played a huge influence on the book.
Mm.
It really did. It allowed me to get a good grasp on um like a good idea of ship archetypes, subclasses,
Mm.
destroyers, frigates, battleships, cruisers, battle cruisers, dreadnoughts, and all the like. It gave me a good grasp on weaponry and defensive systems, because when you're looking at like Star Trek, you have some elements of good systems like EPS conduits and shielding, and but it's Star Trek is just it's space fantasy, you
Right.
know. It's not really that it's
Technical.
not really that technical, and it's not really that sci-fi. What
Hmm.
you're looking there is Lord of the Rings in space.
Yeah,
But then,
that's a great
when you
that's
really
a great comparison.
yeah, it's don't get me wrong, Star Trek is amazing.
Hmm.
It's one
Hmm.
of my favorite time, but it's fantasy. It's the same thing with Star Wars. It's a great, amazing storyline to it,
Hmm. Hmm.
but you just got it in your head that it's just a story. But if you have a high intelligent mind like I do, you want more than just a story.
Mm.
So when I was heavily involved in Eve, it was really getting my brain going. It was forcing my brain to dig and dig and dig and research more and more and more and more. Now, Eve isn't exactly the realism that I wanted. Eve is still heavily fantasy, but it's still incorporated um, like the rail darts and the ballistic weapons and stuff like that. But it was just the start of it because the physics in Eve are still fantasy, extreme fantasy. It's like it's just the tip of it there, but it gets your mind to start thinking. So because of that, I had a baseline. I had a baseline. So I had my ship layout that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a modern navy, you don't want one class of ship to build and that's it. You need a structured multi-class of ships to do multi different types of missions.
Right.
You need small all the way up to the large to do these missions. And I really liked how the developers of Eve laid out their ship structure.
Mm-hmm.
So I used their ship structure with one exception, the Juggernaut.
Mm.
That was my creation. The Juggernaut was this giant megalithic starship that was nearly impossible to destroy, and it had these giant weapons on it. But
Hmm.
it was a beast to move. You couldn't move it around, obviously.
That's actually
I
really cool that you mentioned that because you said that the Navy has to have a variety of
mhm.
different ships, especially if they're going on different missions. So, would it be safe to say that the military also played a role in your creative process as well?
Oh, absolutely. I always wanted to be in the United States Navy, but I never could get in. So this was also another way for me to experience it in one way, shape, or form. So it was kind of a nice escape to that.
And the fact that you literally could have that escapism and realism and the wheels churning while playing Eve, it was like, like seven birds with one stone, or in this
Yeah,
case, six different screens.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And because you dove so much and you were able to literally have the structure for your navy, the structure for your story, for what the space concept is, did it also feel like you were able to have a solid foundation easily created because you're in this world of Eve so much? It's like now you're like, okay, I understand the foundation. Now I just want to make sure when I'm playing it, I can play the game. But just like with the truck driving, my mind is playing the game. This portion of the mind's playing the game, but then this portion's also thinking, how am I going to be able to do this?
No, actually, the funny part was the foundation that I created because of Eve was able to um, oh, what's the word am I thinking of? It was able to free my addiction of Eve
Wow.
because 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 of Eve's fantasy level.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm when I was trying to write my book, I wanted I wanted a little bit of fantasy elements to it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because obviously you can't have it 100% realistic.
Right.
But I have as much realism in it as I possibly can while having some elements of fantasy. So imagine the expanse with some Star Trek in it. So when I was doing my heavy research into orbital mechanics and physics and all that stuff, and Eve just started to get boring to me because it had absolutely no physics whatsoever.
Right.
The planet did not rotate. Nothing orbited each other. No, it was just static.
Right.
So, real quick.
And that's actually intriguing that you were able to detach from something that you had such a strong magnetic pull to it. How would you say that your gaming relationship changed over the years? And do you still find sometimes inspiration from games, new games, or your past love game?
uh, Past, I would probably say not really. Depends. Um, there's always going to be a love for some of the old school Star Wars games for me. Jedi
Mm.
Knight.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
love that game. I put a
oh
lot of
my god.
hours in that.
When I
I
was a
took a lot
kid,
of elements from that game. Woo!
oh my god, when I was a kid, nonstop, nonstop. Oh my, I would have save points,
Yeah.
specific save, the last
Oh,
of the Gorn.
specific
Yeah,
ones?
like the scene, the last of the Gorns were the last scenes you'd see the Gorns, and then the last scenes where something else would happen, and then the first scene you'd see a stormtrooper. Oh, I would do it specifically. Every time I would come home from school, that's what I would do. Jedi Knight all the time. Oh man, that was my all-time favorite game at the time. And then Knights of the Old Republic was another strong one for me.
Oh, yes. Yes, KOTR.
Yes, both of them, I have to say. And X-Wing, TIE Fighter, and X-Wing Alliance were strong.
Mm.
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, now that I think about it a little bit, X-Wing Alliance and TIE Fighter, they actually had a little bit of influence in my book.
Mm.
Some of you got to admit, the creators of those games, they had some of the military uh jargon down pretty well. They really did. The communication that they would have had
Hmm.
was close to being realistic.
Right.
So yeah, that inspired me quite a bit too, because I wanted the communication to be pretty close as well.
And because you've had a lot of these inspirations and you had a lot of ability to be able to get that understanding of how the game is, how would you say that when you did take a break between your writing sessions, how would you keep your creativity alive? Would it still be with games, or because you're taking a break from the writing, you're able to be able to continuously just hone it in your brain and get the story right before you decide to go back to the writing part?
I have one secret for that. Some people will get it, others won't. And the people who will get it will understand it is a curse. It is an
Mm,
evil curse that we want to get rid of.
mm,
ADHD.
mm.
Hyper focus. During my break sessions when I didn't write, it was always still in there. It never
Dang.
went away. Ever. As a matter of
Con-
fact, I'm scripting out scenes of book 3 right now, and 4, and a couple of 7 right now too. So
that's
it
actually
never,
pretty intriguing.
it never goes away ever.
How much are you able to write out, or do you wait until it starts to sound a little bit right in your head before you decide to want to actually get it out?
So I have the basic structure of all the way up to book 10 in my head right now,
Wow.
and I have certain scenes that I play out here and there all the way throughout. But the actual content doesn't happen until I start writing it.
Mm.
I mean, I have a general idea of what I want to happen,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't happen in perfect form until I actually start writing it. And then
Mm.
sometimes I have to just lay out a basic form and then come back to it later to really polish it out. Like I'll give you an example here. Uh, Chapter 5, Epsilon. I really I knew what I wanted to get done. It's a very big battle scene. and it's a very impressive battle scene. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but at the time when I wrote it, I couldn't figure out a way to make it this big, giant, perfect, amazing battle scene that I wanted it to be. So I just pretty much summarized it and then moved on. It was 2,100, 2,200 words at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I completed the first draft of the book. Then what I like to do is I go through it again, a second phase, draft two, what I like to call the content creation phase.
Mm.
And usually where all the magic happens. This is where when I reread it, because when I go through 50 some chapters, I completely forget what happens in chapter 1, 2, and 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I reread everything and I go, oh, okay, so I can do this. This sounds better, or I'm going to change this, or no, I don't like that. This sounds better, or a new idea pops into my head, or whatever. But when I got to chapter 5, I read that summary that I wrote, and then all of a sudden it clicked. That chapter went from 2,100 words to 6,500 words.
Mm.
And it made it to be an amazing chapter. I loved it. I was so proud of that.
Does it make it easier to write when you are like your own number one fan to want to create a chapter that makes it true to what you're thinking?
I guess you could say that because I really enjoy my writing, my work.
I hear
Like,
it. It doesn't click
yeah,
until it clicks.
I, book one, WarpStar, this one, I got a copy of it right here, WarpStar. I got quite a few of them. I must have reread this book 30 or 40 times. I must have listened to the audiobook version half a dozen times, if not more.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like an arrogant person, but I'm obsessed with my own writing. I like the story. I love the story that I have created. And it's kind of weird because book one is a weird, I really wouldn't say weird, but it's more of an officer centric focus around the main character. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that because spoiler alert, he's not the main character. So it's an officer centric book focused on exploration, first contact, new journeys, new allies. And at the end of it, which the epilogue will tie right in to book two,
Mm-hmm.
and book two has one main plot and one main subplot. That's it. The actual storyline is small and compact, but it's huge. It's it kind of hard to describe because there is no giant arc to book two, but it's very important.
Mm.
But then once you get to book three, four, and five, the universe starts opening up.
Mm. And
So
in your case, because it opens up right now, you're still in the beginning stages.
yeah, book one and two would be the introductory books.
Mm.
So it's not so these books aren't just hi, my name is Jennifer and this is what I can do. And this is my past. No, they're like this is the this is what the universe is about. This is the conflict that they're currently going through. This is how they resolve that conflict and this is what's going to happen going forward. Because there's some major conflict that's happening and they have to resolve, that's going to cause some major problems in the future.
Hey, that's you lay down a massive amount of work for yourself, but it's
It's
like
fun.
good work. Yeah, it's good work. It's like you were able to create this project that just keeps you going on a consistent basis.
The universe that I have laid out here has got enough content in it to where it could span 20 to 50 main books and an unlimited number of spin-offs.
And how do you stay motivated when you have these large tasks with life's demands coming at you?
Every chance I get, I just work at it. I It's my passion. It is my absolute passion. I It's weird because before, when I started this endeavor, all I wanted to do was just write the story. This entire artwork
Fire.
and design, I hired out. I didn't do any of it. And the more unfortunately, I'm in a very bad financial situation due to health, and my primary job is not, I'm not working and everything, and I've lost my disability, and because of that, kind of a good thing that happened. I have more time to work on the book.
Mm.
It's what allowed me to finish Epsilon in a timely manner, and not only has it allowed me to enjoy writing and finishing Epsilon, I've had to do the artwork and the cover design for Epsilon myself, and I've learned how to do it, and that's even become enjoyable. And you know how I told you earlier in the show that this is going to get
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's going to get a redesign that's going to be on par with Epsilon's. Yeah, yeah. And I had quite a bit of fun designing that one. I did get frustrated with Ingram Spark because for some weird reason they were very, very picky on their dimensions there, but I got that sorted.
And are you still indie?
Yes.
How was that process that you have full control over your IP, intellectual property?
Um, there are good things and there are bad things about it. The good parts is, like you just said, I have full control. I do everything. I do everything, and literally is you have to. You can either hire it out
Hmm.
um, through Fiverr or Reedsy. You can hire artists and editors and formatters to do what you need to do. You gotta have money to do it, or you can literally do it yourself. But the bad part is you gotta have money, and it's not cheap. Not cheap. To WarpStar cost me $1,300 to edit this book. The audiobook version of this was another $1,300. The artwork, not the design, but the actual artwork with the ship and the ships here, not the words, but the ships, was $500.
No wonder it looks so
Then
crisp.
then the text work and everything was another $500.
Wow.
It's not cheap. That's the downside of being a self-published author. That's why I've been trying to run a Kickstarter campaign.
Hmm.
Not been going well.
And is that on your website?
I actually don't have it posted on my website for some reason. Why? I don't know.
Definitely gotta have to post it so that way everybody who wants to support can go.
You're absolutely right. I don't. I honestly don't like the way I designed my website. That's
What?
probably
Guys, his website is just like his book. It is straight fire. I don't know what he's
really.
talking about. It's
I don't.
amazing.
I am. As soon as I have some extra money, I plan on switching it over to um, the one that starts with a W. Man, my brain is not working today. Um,
Wix, Wix, something like that.
no, that's what right now is Wix.
Because I really like the background. The background really like puts it into perspective that this is a sci-fi future. Like like it is such a beautiful image. I can already picture myself
Okay.
being there. It is amazing. If you redo it, I'm not gonna. I don't know what the next one's gonna look like.
No,
But
no,
I said the one right now, I really like it.
no. I was going to use the same artwork, but that brings me to a question for you. You just got
Go for
done
it.
saying you like that background. It pops out, it's sci-fi and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if I told you that is AI generated?
I would not even believe you. What?
Yeah,
Is it
that's
really?
AI. That is AI artwork. And can you believe that I got a lot of flack in the author community for having that AI generated?
What?
Yep, yep.
Wow.
For
That.
some reason, the um it's not just the author community. It's a lot of in the creative community. They're
Mm,
frowning on using AI generated anything,
mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh, people aren't going to like it. People aren't going to buy it. They're going to tell it's AI generated, and it's just going to be crap because you're too lazy. You didn't put much effort into it, so they're not going to buy it." Can you believe it took me 7 hours to generate that image to give the prompts that I wanted to generate that image?
I've tried some tools. It is hard to even get a simple image, and you
Hmm.
have like almost a near a whole fleet of spaceships
Hmm.
with a couple of planets, a couple of moons. That is, for me, that is so hard to believe. Like, but I'm so in awe that that is actually like that's a real image, like that exists. Like I can see the jet thrusters like just blaring out, and I can see,
Well, I'm glad to hear.
yeah, like I'm looking at this immaculate image and so many details. Like that's why I'm such in awe. You want to, if you create the art, I think that it's very hard to judge the artist in a harsh way because there's so many people that they have the same concept but they're not putting in the work to making the image in your head come out, and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen whether it takes me 20 hours, 10 minutes, or 7 hours, and you were able to
Exactly.
do it. And you're using it now as an amazing landing page for what you're actually doing. And I really like the Epsilon artwork. Guys, check out the website if you want to see what the next book artwork looks like. It's fire. I like
Now,
it.
now here's a little taste. That style of background on my website, that style is going to be used for the new artwork for the books.
Oh, yeah, I really like that.
Hmm.
That's so cool. And I did also want to ask you because you have all these worlds, universes, and characters, ships. You have so much. How do you develop these characters, and how do you stay up to date with them? How do you keep them in your head in order to then use them in the story? Because there's so much.
There is a lot. Yes. Some, okay, the development phase. some of them I literally just go gobbledygook. Like, yep. Um, if it sounds cool, I'll use it. If it sounds bad, I'll just try it again. Others, when I want more of a specific sound, there
Mm-hmm.
are there are character generators out there on the net. Like when I want a specific Sumerian name, or because I use the book was actually supposed to be heavily based around the ancient astronaut theory with Sumerians and Arcturians. And
Oh, that's lit.
yeah, yeah. So I try to do I try to do some of the ancient Mesopotamia I can't pronounce that word, Mesopotamia um, history in it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want some of those, I use a character generator. Now, obviously, with my ADHD brain that I can't remember left from right,
Mm-hmm.
there's how I'm going to remember what I just created. So I use a program called Novel Crafter, and that's
Mm.
what I write with. Not only do I write my novel with it, but when I create a character, it allows me to create a codex and create that character, put all the details, the information, history, backstory, twerks. I can even put a picture of what that character should look like in there. And
Wow.
then every time I mention that character, it'll highlight it, and it'll even put up a graph about how many times I've mentioned that character.
So it'll hyperlink it so that way you remember who this is, what their quirks are, what they look like, etc.
Yep,
Oh, that is phenomenal. All right, I'll
yep.
ask you one more question because I see that you're getting really busy.
No, I'm. That's just no, uh, n- uh, I'm trying to get into my fundraising account, and it's because I can't remember which one I use. So it's just two-factor authentication is what that is.
Oh, that's all right. Don't worry because we will bring you back. You got a lot of stuff that I want to continue talk about and on the time as well. So I
Oh,
did want to ask you a final question, then I'll let you get a rant off so that you can actually promote your material as well. You decided to embark on this journey. Did you ever think in your wildest imagination when you first started your Star Trek fan fiction and when you first started writing that you would develop the desire to want to continue and embrace that author persona that you so heavily embody right now?
no, I never did. I was scared.
Oh,
I
wow.
was scared because I got caught writing in high school one time, and I got made fun of it so hard.
Mm.
Oh, fun of it so hard, and it scared me for the longest time. And then I think the isolation of truck driving kind of made me forget about that bullying for you know.
Fire.
So yeah, and then the story obviously of Craig Allenson, making it really big, kind of pushed me into it again. And then when I just started doing it heavily, it's just so fun. It's just fun creating a universe, you know? It's like I tell people because everyone keeps saying you're not going to make it big being an author. Your books aren't going to sell. You're going to sell only a couple here and there. And I'm like, I don't care if I only sell one or 1 million. I'm going to continue writing because it's my passion. It's what I love to do. I'm creating a universe. It's the act of creating this universe is so enjoyable to me. I can't think of anything else that makes me happier.
Mm. And for those that would like to support somebody that is so passionate and wants to continue doing this for eons, where can they go to support you? How can they support you? And whether they have funds, whether they don't have funds, what are the best ways that they can support you and what you're building and what book 10, they want to see that into a reality. What can they do?
Book 10 would be amazing to see right now. Author-jlmaynor.com is where you can get all of my current projects. I have paperback and ebook on Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Uh, you can currently get a preview of Epsilon through my Patreon that is linked on my website, author-jlmaynor.com. And I do have a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. I am bad at marketing. I'm absolutely terrible at
That's
marketing.
that's a true author.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I have some type of crowdfunding platform out there. So if you're truly an awesome person, you can search for it. It's a $10,000 crowdfunding. It's for Epsilon. The purpose of it is to try to get post production completed. I need the funds for a good editor. That was one of the mistakes that I made for WarpStar. I didn't hire a good editor. And I told you it was a $1,300 editor, and they did not do that good a job. So I want a good editor. I want try to get a good cover designer, and I really need Zane Boyer was the audio. Oh, was the narrator for WarpStar. I want him again. He's already agreed to it. Got to have Zane Boyer for it, and then the whatever is left over is gonna go straight into market. So gotta get it. Gotta do it right this time. Gotta do it right this time. So author-jlmaynor.com for my current works. You can sign up for the Patreon to see a preview of Epsilon. Every single chapter for Epsilon is actually on my Patreon right now, but they're separated in certain tiers. The lower tiers have the earlier chapters, and then it keeps on going down from there. If you want to read them all, you're going to have to sign up for the higher ones. I do have, if anyone here is listening from the United Kingdom, I have a couple of United Kingdom tiers on Patreon for a free audiobook for WarpStar, and I have a couple left for the American ones too. So check it out. You might get some free goodies.
Oh my goodness. That, guys, concludes part one of our conversation with Jason. JL Maynor. Guys, if you like this at all whatsoever, make sure to drop a like or a comment. Definitely share this with somebody who either likes space, likes Eve, likes video games, productivity, also has ADHD. Whatever you took from this, if you know somebody that would truly like this, let them know. Because this is an incredible journey from fan fiction in high school, being made fun of for being an amazing creative genius, to now being a full-fledged author who is still needing more assistance with getting the work completed. As you can see, his dedication to storytelling, despite life's hurdle, should serve as an inspiration and a reminder that it's never too late to pursue your passions, no matter what degree or where you are in life. So a huge
Never
thank
too late.
you. Thank you. Thank
Craig
you.
Craig Allenson is in his high 50s, and that's when he started.
Whew,
Never too late for passion.
whew. Never too late,
Mm-mm.
guys. So as you can see, we definitely can't wait for him to come back on and give us more details, give us more insight on the creative journey. So again, if you're listening and you're feeling inspired, make sure to stay connected with Jason. Look at the link either on the screen or in the description. Share it with somebody. Make sure that you're doing the best you can at everything that you can. Until next time, keep crafting, creating, and chasing those cosmic dreams.